Hello everyone and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Kristen Farley. Knoxville city leaders, business owners and neighbors have been debating a comprehensive overhaul to the zoning rules. It's an effort dubbed Recode Knoxville. Well, last month it seemed like city council would vote on the latest draft of Recode. Instead, two special city council sessions stretched on for hours as lawmakers delved deep into the specifics. Now we're told the next shot at a vote could come in July. In the meantime, we are learning now about an effort to put the Recode issue on the ballot and let voters actually have their say. So joining us here in the studio today, everyone, from Citizens from Knoxville Government Transparency, we have Daniel Herrera. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for the invite.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, tell everyone at home kind of who you are really and why you got behind this.
Sure. So my name is Daniel Herrera. I'm the spokesman for the organization. And what we're seeing with this whole Recode ordinance is that it's rushed and it's not representative of what the people of Knoxville want. This is the first time that we're seeing an entire city being rezoned, and the city council just seems to be going off a whim. You know, they're gambling with your property rights and gambling with your future.
We just talked about how they went into these two mega long sessions, delving into that. Were you happy to see them taking a closer look at it? It's
always a good thing when you have your elected officials open the door for residents and business owners to come. However, that just goes to show how unprepared they are. I mean, they pushed this meeting back already. Now they're saying we're going to see a July vote. You know, it just seems like, you know, we're on the 5th revision of this thing too. It just seems like they're rushing this through, and the more that people learn about it, the more they don't want it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what the city is saying right now. We want to go ahead and play a little bit for you from Knoxville Mayor Herrera's State of the City address. This was from back in April. Take a listen.
Recode is a comprehensive update of Knoxville zoning ordinance to incorporate modern planning practices and remove obsolete regulations and contradictions. The goal is to have a clearer and more consistent land use code, easier to use and to administer, that serves as a blueprint for the future. Council will soon vote on Recode, and I fully support its passage. It is meant to be a living document. Any element that has unintended consequences can be dealt with through the legislative process, as has been done for the last 50 years or so. We cannot let our image of the perfect be the enemy of the practical and the...
All right, Daniel, let's talk about that statement there and what the mayor had to say. What do you take issue with in what you just heard?
Zoning laws are not living, breathing documents. They were supposed to be set in stone so that people can follow. What we're seeing is the city council and the mayor is pushing this big plan, and it's filled with a bunch of legalese. I mean, you really have to have an attorney really look at it to understand. This is going to have a massive impact. I mean, in order for you to sell your property, you might have to even speak to an attorney just to make sure you're in compliance, you know, making sure that you're actually able to sell the property. I mean, this thing, like I said, it's just being rushed. What we're going to see here, this is also kind of like a sneaky way to end up pushing for a property tax increase down the line. And, you know, they're not talking about it, but when they actually have more citizens come in and actually taking away parking and having more people move in, you're putting more stress on the police departments, the fire departments, and our schools.
Do you think that is the motivation, is to get another property tax?
Well, I think any city government official really deep in their heart would like that, because it just means more money to spend on programs. But it's just it's a consequence that's going to come with it. So,
do you think going forward that our zoning laws should stay exactly the way they are, or do you think there is another option out there?
Well, the mayor is saying that we need to modernize our zoning laws, and she is correct when she says we haven't changed it within 60 years. Nobody's opposed to changing zoning laws. What we don't want is a city council and a mayor that's trying to push this down your throat, doing it behind your back, really trying to keep it on the down low, and passing it without really much consideration on what the residents want.
You say that you feel like that people haven't heard about this enough. They don't know about this enough. We've been talking about this for some 2 years. There have been a series of meetings here. In fact, one of the complaints that we've heard from a lot of people, a lot of opponents, again, is they just didn't feel like the notice was sufficient enough before the time came around for the vote. The city, though, again, keeps pointing out all of these public input sessions. We've been talking about the stories we've done here. What kind of notice do you want to see?
Well, we want to know how this is going to impact your property. Are you going to see some sort of increase down the line? Are you safe? How is this going to affect you selling your property? You know, it's all about protecting your property rights. And what that ordinance really does is really restrict your property rights. You know, what it does is also restrict how many employees you could have at your home, you know, what you could really do at your house or your property. You know, the truth is, people have a right to do what they want with their property, so long as they're not, in compliance with the law and not affecting somebody else's life. What this RECODE thing does is it really takes away your right and puts it into the trust and the foreseeability of what the city thinks is going to happen.
Some people say that cities need to have a direction when they're seeing this kind of growth, and that the city of Knoxville doesn't have enough direction, and that this is part of moving us forward. Do you disagree with that?
Well, in a sense, it kind of is, but the process that it's being done, it seems like it's just being pushed down the throats of residents. They're really not listening to residents and their concerns, and really just making sure that you actually get your feedback and take it into consideration when you're doing these ordinances. Because this ordinance is not, it's not just a little ordinance. This is affecting the entire city.
Are you opposed, because a lot of this has to do with increased density in our city possibly, are you opposed to that?
It's not the density issue, it's the transparency behind this city council and what the mayor is doing. If you want people to be more engaged, put it on the ballot. Now, we would love for this ordinance to actually be shot down and the city council doesn't actually adopt it. However, if it does, we are ready to take the right steps to put it in front of voters. We are confident that voters are going to vote this down.
Tell us exactly how this would work in order to get this on the ballot.
Right. So first, the city council must pass the ordinance. And then what we have to do is we have to get 25% signatures of the voters who voted in the last mayoral election. Once we have that petition, we file it with the city council and we proceed with getting it on the ballot.
How do you get 25% of the voters out there? How big of a task have you thought about actually physically having to do the work to get that?
Yes, and our committee has vast campaign experience. I was a representative for Congressman Tim Burchett when he was running for re-election, in the primary, and I have vast campaign experience before that. We are not afraid to knock doors and get those signatures right there from the voters.
If you had to issue this right now, write this referendum, what would your referendum say? What do you want it to say? Well,
just take whatever the ordinance is being proposed, okay, and then have the voters actually vote on the ordinance that is being drafted. That's essentially what we can do with this referendum, and it gives us more time to educate the public on how this is going to affect them. It also puts some more pressure on city officials to have to explain themselves and actually speak to voters who are going to be contacting them, because we're knocking on their door. And we're going to be telling them to contact their city council members.
So a lot of people say if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Do you have a solution? Do you have an actual idea of what you would like a new code to look like for us?
Sure. And we haven't examined the actual city code to see how this is going to affect. We're just going off the responses of what the residents want. Again, if we had more time to do this, more time to actually look into how this is going to affect your property, how this is going to affect you selling your property, how it's going to affect your business, your tax increase possibly down the line, then we could actually start talking about it. But it seems like this is the kind of stuff that the city council is avoiding. And when it comes to your life, this is really important to talk about, and not just trying to get it down a vote in July.
Do you think enough people understand this issue?
I'm not sure, because it is an extremely complex issue. Zoning laws are extremely complex. Just understanding how city officials pass ordinances, that's a really complex issue. So we've seen this pushed back already twice, this year, and that just goes to show that they are not ready to pass the ordinance. We need to educate the public more, let them dissect it, understand how this is going to affect them, and then let them have a voice on how that's going to vote.
I'm sure we will be staying in touch. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it. All right, everyone, still to come, our panel of pundits coming your way next. Stay with us. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.